Today, I'm going to be showing you how to do an AirFX air ride system installation on your Milwaukee 8 Softail. Okay, so let's go over all the parts that you're going to get with your air ride system. So number one, you're going to get your air shock. Next up, we have our air compressor. This is going to be our valve pair. This is going to be our pressure switch. We also have a dual relay for our micro button switches. We also have a mounting bracket specifically designed for the Milwaukee 8 to mount all of our air compressors, valve pairs, as well as our relays. Your kit's also going to come with some airline and some hardware. So now that I've gone over all the parts, let me show you how to do the install. The first step of this installation is to secure the motorcycle up on a lift. Chock the front wheel and place a lift on the rear portion of the frame. So let's start off by removing the seat, the rear fender, and the fuel tank. Once these parts are removed, it's time to jack up the rear end of the motorcycle and remove the rear wheel and tire. Okay, so we're going to start by jacking up this motorcycle to where this rear wheel is barely off of the lift. Next, we're going to take a 12mm socket. We're going to go ahead and loosen these bolts on the rear brake. All right, we're gonna go ahead and pop off this clip, set it aside, and let's go ahead and loosen up this rear axle nut. Now, using a nylon or a rubber mallet, we're gonna knock this axle out. Okay, let's go ahead and slide out our ABS sensor. Get this out of the way. Go ahead and remove this spacer here. Let's go ahead and remove the chain guard so that way we can remove this belt a little bit easier. So in order to remove this rear wheel, we're gonna have to push this wheel up, pull the belt back, take it off of the pulley. Okay, once we have the belt off the pulley, we can go ahead and hold on to our brake hanger and start sliding our wheel back. Okay, now it's time to remove the rear shock and the dampener. We're gonna start off by using a T27 and removing this bolt here. Next, we're going to be using a 12mm socket to remove these bolts right here. Now that the bracket and the dampener is loosened, we can go ahead and start removing our shock. Let's start off by removing the pinch bolt, which is a 1/4 Allen head. Next, we're going to be using a T50 Torx with an extension. Now there's going to be a sleeve inside here that won't allow you to bring this shock out without pushing it in. Finally, we're going to take a 19mm 6-point socket and we're going to remove this bolt that's holding the front portion of the shock. Once that sleeve is pushed in, we can go ahead and push our swing arm down and remove our shock. Now it's time to install our shock. Remember that the installation is going to go with a valve up top, and there's going to be 2 spacers that are going to be provided with your air shock. Now we're going to be installing this with our valve stem up. Now you're going to have 2 spacers that are mounted onto the shock itself, and you're going to have 2 external spacers that are going to go on the outside of the left and the outside of the right. Whenever we're doing this installation, we're going to start off by sliding in the 19mm bolt just a little bit and catch that spacer. Next, we're going to get our shock, put it in place. Go ahead and slide that in just a little bit. Now, carefully, we're going to take this spacer, and I'm going to use a flathead just to give us a little bit of additional space, so that way we can slide that spacer in place. And from here, we can go ahead and start tightening this bolt. Now it's time to mount our shock to our swing arm. If this is uneven, let's take a screwdriver and we can spin it in place. Perfect. We're going to go ahead and put our spacers back in. And we've got 2 additional spacers just like the front. It's going to be on the left and on the right. Okay, so let's go ahead and get our T50 Torx in place. We're going to go ahead and slide this bolt right there. And we've got our 2 spacers in hand. We're going to go ahead and lift up our swing arm about right there. And first, I'm going to put this left spacer in place. Let's go ahead and set our other spacer on the other side. All right. Go ahead and tighten up this T50 bolt. And let's go ahead and tighten up our pinch bolt. Okay, so before I go any further, I wanted to show you this part right here. This is called a Shraider valve. And all it is almost like a tire valve that you'd see on your wheel or tire. And that's where you can put air into. What we're gonna do, we're gonna install this right here on this bottom port. And you wanna take some Teflon tape. This is gonna make a seal once this is threaded in. We don't need much. But we're gonna take this Shraider valve and we're just gonna put some Teflon tape on it just like this. Okay, I'm just gonna tear off some of the excess Teflon, that way we don't block that opening. And we're gonna hand tighten this in. Okay, once we have it hand tightened like that, we can take an 11mm open wrench and we're just gonna go ahead and tighten this in. Okay, so what this Shraider valve is for is not only does this air ride allow this motorcycle to go up and down, but it also has an internal chamber to make the ride stiffer or softer depending on the rider's weight. For heavier riders, or if you're riding with a passenger, a lot of the times you can put up to 25 or 30 pounds of PSI in there and it will allow a stiffer ride for you. So whenever you put air in this, you never use an air chuck or anything from an air compressor. What you want to use is an air pump to make sure that you can get an accurate reading of 20 pounds or 10 pounds or 15 pounds, whatever your liking is. I would start with 5 pounds and work your way up. Like I said, if you're under 180, 200 pounds, I wouldn't even mess with this. In fact, I would ride this air ride just the way it is. And if you feel like you need a little bit stiffer ride, this is what you're gonna do to add air into it. Now that our air shock is installed, let's go ahead and move on to the electrical wiring. So for this part of the install, we're gonna remove the battery. Okay, so inside your battery tray, there's gonna be 3 plastic screws. And it's gonna be one here, one back here, and one here. We can unscrew those and let's just go ahead and pop these out just like that. Next, we're gonna unplug the BCM. Pull that plug off. Once this BCM is removed, let's go ahead and remove these wires and get these out of the way. Okay, so we're looking at the back panel back here by the BCM. Now this is a plastic panel that we're gonna be trimming. And to better illustrate our cut, I'm just going to go ahead and mark the area that we're gonna be trimming. Now what we wanna do is we wanna trim this lip off completely in order for our pressure switch to fit. And our pressure switch is gonna be mounted right here. Okay, so once that cut is made, we can go ahead and start putting back our BCM panel back into place. Okay, so this is where our pressure switch is gonna be mounted. And what I'm gonna do is I've got a piece of some 3M double-sided extreme Velcro here. I'm gonna go ahead and put another piece right here up top where this is gonna mount. Okay, so once that's in, so we're gonna take a zip tie and we're gonna go from the bottom. And let's go ahead and take a secondary zip tie because this one's not gonna be long enough. Now we're gonna take our pressure switch and we're gonna mount it right there. Okay, and we'll go back through here to connect the zip tie to secure it in place. We can go ahead and trim our zip tie. Okay, from this point we can go ahead and reconnect our push pins on the inside of our battery tray. Okay, so we'll take our first push pin. Okay, that's locked in place. And we've got another one back here that we removed. Go ahead and push that in and lock that in place. Okay, let's go ahead and reconnect our BCM. We're going to carefully push this in place, and as it's pushed in, we're going to pull that tab down and it'll lock in place. Okay, so now it's time to find a location for our dual relay. So our dual relay is going to be mounted right here. And we're going to go ahead and double up our zip tie again like we did on the pressure switch. Once we've got that in place, we can go ahead and mount our dual relay. We're just going to pull these wires alongside, make some room, and all right, excellent. Yeah, that's a perfect fit. I'm going to feed this zip tie right through here. Now it's time to mount our air compressor as well as our valve pair. We're also going to be using a bracket that's going to be mounted to the back portion of your transmission, and I'll show you how it's done. In your kit, you're going to have a bag with some mounting hardware as well as 4 rubber gaskets. Now you're going to take a washer and your lock washer and set these on top of each bolt. Now the other washer and nuts you will not need, so you can go ahead and discard these and set them aside for the time being. Okay, so we're going to take our bracket, and first thing you want to look for is there's going to be a tapered area where these screws are going to go, and you want to make sure that the tapered area is facing up. Next off, you're going to have your some rubber gaskets that you're going to place right here and right here. Once that's done, we're going to set our air compressor right on top, just like that. And we're going to take these bolts, put some blue Loctite on there, and we're just going to hand tighten these down for the time being. Okay, so now that these 4 bolts are started, we're going to take a 10mm socket and we're going to start tightening these up. Now that your bolts have all been tightened down, let's go ahead and flip this over, and we're going to trim off the excess bolt material. And we're just going to give these another quarter turn, make sure that they're tight. Okay, next up we're going to take our valve pair. Now this valve pair is going to be mounted just like this, okay? Before we mount this valve pair, we want to flip this over, and we want to clean our surface, and we're going to add some 3M double-sided Velcro. All right, I'm just using some rubbing alcohol right now. Make sure the surface is clean and dry of any oils. Now I'm going to take a measurement. This is about how much material I'm going to need, so we'll cut this, and I'm going to lay this piece right here just so I know that I need the exact same cut. Do this again. Now I'm going to take this 3M double-sided Velcro and I'm going to stick it on this side. Apply plenty of pressure, and we'll do the same on the other valve pair, or the other solenoid. Now what we're going to do, let's go ahead and take off the backing of the 3M double-sided Velcro. And what we're going to do, we want to mount this, but we want to make sure that we're not blocking these holes. And we want to make sure that the solenoids, the valve pair, are set over to the right-hand side. All right, that's good. It should look just like that. Okay, so we're looking at the rear view of the motorcycle. Now, if I zoom in, these 2 mounts on the back of the transmission is where we're going to be mounting this bracket. We're going to take our 2 bolts and our 4mm socket head, and we're going to add some red Loctite on them. We want to make sure that these bolts don't loosen up. Go ahead and position our bracket in place. Move these wires out the way so you can see. So first, I'm going to get this one over here, and I'm just getting the thread started right there. Okay. And I've got the thread started on this side as well. Go ahead and tighten these up. All right, that's good. All right, that's good too. Okay, so let's go ahead and start connecting our electrical. Now from our pressure switch, we're going to have 2 wires. It's going to be a black and a red wire. Now this red wire is going to see compressor positive, and the black wire is going to say compressor negative. We're going to connect the positive wire from the pressure switch to the positive wire of the air compressor. We're going to connect the negative line to the negative line of the air compressor. I generally like to use quick connects just in the event that we ever have to service the air compressor. Now that those wires have connectors on there, we can go ahead and connect these connectors. Okay. Okay, next we have a positive and negative that's going to be coming off of our pressure switch. We also have an ignition wire. We're going to set this ignition wire to the side for right now. Now we also have another positive and negative coming from our dual relay module. This is what's going to control our switches. Now the positive of the pressure switch and the dual relay is going to go together, and the negative of the pressure switch and the dual relay is going to go together. But we're going to shorten up these wires so that way we don't have too much slack going in here. So this is where I want the wires to be run, and see, we have a little bit extra slack right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this right here. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to add an extension of a ground wire, and I'm just going to twist it on right here, and I'm going to solder this together. And we're going to do the same thing with the power wire. Once we have those wires soldered up, let's go ahead and slip some heat shrink over here to cover the exposed wire. And we'll do the same to the power. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and extend this ignition wire because we're going to need some additional slack to make sure that it reaches to our point of ignition. And we'll go ahead and slip some heat shrink over this wire here, cover the exposed area. Okay, now let's go down to the wires that are coming off of our solenoids. So each solenoid has two wires. One's a positive and one's a ground. Same thing, one's a positive and one's a ground. So the first thing we want to do is take these wires and we want to route them up through here. Let's go ahead and pull these up. All right, and go ahead and pull this other set up. All right, perfect. Now we have these four wires left over. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm coming down here to my solenoids, and I have taken one wire from each solenoid. These are going to be my two grounds, so I'm going to go ahead and connect these in on the two black wires. So I'll go ahead and do that now. Okay, so I've got my two grounds and I've got some connectors on here. Now I'm going to go to the grounds coming off of my dual relay. Go ahead and strip these wires off. So once these connectors are on, we can go ahead and plug in our grounds. Go ahead and get those out of the way. Now we're going to go ahead and move over to the hots. Now we've got one white wire. We can choose either of these wires to connect to this hot. I'm going to go ahead and take this red hot. We'll put a connector on here as well. Now we're going to move over to our solenoids, and we're going to put our connectors on here. So like I said, I'm not a big fan of connectors, but on this particular install it's a bit important because it doesn't matter which hot you connect your solenoid to, but what happens is if you connect this hot to this solenoid here, and you connect this hot to this solenoid here, and you hit your micro button switch, this goes up and this goes down, but that's not the way that you want it. Maybe you want it switched around. All you have to do is disconnect these two wires and switch them around on these solenoids, and it will reverse the polarity of your buttons. So I'm going to go ahead and connect these in just like this. I'll go ahead and clean up all these wires. I'll put them in, and for whatever reason, a little bit later down in the installation, if I want to switch these around, or I don't like the way that the buttons are activating, if I want to make the left hand side go up and it's going down, all I have to do is switch these two wires around. Now that I've got all of my wires connected, I'm going to go ahead and take a little bit of time to clean up these wires, zip tie, and secure everything in place. Okay, so next we're going to take our negative wire that's going to be going to our battery. Let's go ahead and strip some material off. just like that. Actually, let's go a little bit more. All right, let's twist this up. Now I'm going to go ahead and set some heat shrink over this, so that way we can slip over our connector. I generally like that. We're going to slip this connector in, slide this heat shrink over. Okay, before we connect our power to our battery, we're going to need to add an inline fuse. So I'm going to take an inline fuse holder. I'm going to cut it right here. Let's go and strip some of this wire off. Let's go ahead and pull this through up top. I'm going to slide some of this heat shrink over. Twist these two together, just like that. Once that's soldered, we can go ahead and pull our heat shrink over. Now on our other end of the inline fuse, what we just added, we're going to go ahead and put our connector on the end here. Power wire. Okay, so at this point we can go ahead and slide our battery back in place. Positive in first. Okay, so at this point let's go ahead and take our battery bolt, slide it in, and we're going to connect our power. Okay. Let's tighten that up. Go ahead and slide this plate in first. Now we can take our ground and bring it up to our negative. Let's go ahead and take our ground from our motorcycle as well. And we'll connect this together. All right. For the last part of the electrical, we're going to be connecting our ignition wire. Whenever you removed your rear fender, there were 3 plugs. One was a left turn signal, one was a right turn signal, and this is going to be your power. So back here, we're going to find the blue wire on this black plug. And we can go ahead and open this up right around here. Once you've located this blue wire, we're going to put a T-tap in here. Go ahead and slide this in. Spin it around and take our pliers and go ahead and snap that in. Now we've tapped into our power, which will come on during our ignition. Now we're going to take this wire, let's go ahead and strip a little bit of it, and now we can put our fitting on here. You can go ahead and plug this in, snap it in place. Once that's done, we can go ahead and reroute our wires back to the wire holder that's underneath the frame. For this part of the install, we're going to be converting our highway bar into an air tank reservoir, and I'm going to show you how. So number one, we're going to need a 1/8 NPT plug. Number two, we're going to need our 90-degree elbow. This is going to be a 1/8 NPT as well as a 5/32 airline fitting. We're also going to need a 1/8 by 27 NPT tap. So let me show you how it's done. Okay, if you look closely on the inside of these highway bars, you're going to have a hole here, and you're also going to have a hole here. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna drill and tap those with this NPT fitting. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna find the right side of the highway bar, which is gonna be this side right here. I generally like to run my airline on the right side of the motorcycle, so our fitting is gonna come here. We're also gonna need to do another hole over here on this other side. So we're gonna take our drill, get some cutting oil on here. Let's go ahead and draw out the other side as well. Okay, so on our left side of the highway bar, we're going to go ahead and put some Teflon tape on this plug, and we're just going to go ahead and start these threads. Okay, now we can go over here to the other side and install our fitting. So I did the same thing that we did on the plug. We're going to put some Teflon tape on there to create a better seal, and we're just going to start by hand tightening this in. All right, we got a good seal. Okay, so to install our highway bar, we're first going to start off with this Allen bolt and our nut, and we're going to set this on top. This will allow us to have our highway bar set in place. And I just got this one started. So now I can come down to the bottom, our lower mounting bolt in. Okay, I got this one started. Let's go on the other side and get the other hole done. Now it's time to connect our air lines. The first line that we're going to connect is going to be from our air compressor over to the top portion of this valve. It's going to be right here. So we're going to connect our top line up here. Okay, our air line is in on the top of this valve. Now we're going to run this line over to our air compressor. Once we find the length that we want, we're going to go ahead and cut this. And I'm going to cut this with a razor cutter. Make sure that it's a straight cut, which it is. And we're going to connect this one right here. Excellent. Our next air line is going to be coming from this T in between the valve pair. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to connect this T over to the top of the air shock. Let's make sure that this cut is straight. All right. And let's go ahead and connect this in. Push it all the way in. Now we're going to bring this line up. Let's go ahead and route it behind this electrical. And we're going to bring this line up and we're going to connect it right here. Let's leave a little bit of slack, but not too much is necessary. Okay, that's good. Okay, so for our next airline, if you look over here on the right side of this valve pair, you're going to see a 90-degree elbow. What we're going to do is we're going to take a T, this is a 5/32 T, and we're going to take a small piece of hose. We're going to make a small connection. So we're going to go into the T just like that, and we're going to plug it in right here, and we're going to take the other side of the T and plug it into this fitting right here on the 90-degree elbow. Next, there's going to be an airline coming from your pressure switch. So we're going to go ahead and plug into this pressure switch. And let's go ahead and plug in here. Okay, that's in. Now we're going to bring this airline down and we're going to connect to this T. Let's go ahead and route this way. And all right, there we go. Let's fish this line down. Excellent. Okay, we'll go ahead and cut it about right here. And we're going to plug into the top portion of this T. Perfect. Okay, so the last airline that we're going to connect is going to be from this bottom T, and we're going to run it all the way up to our highway bar. And we can go ahead and do that now. So I'm going to take this airline, go ahead and plug it in, make sure that it's all the way in. Now I'm going to run this airline along the electrical that's on the inside of the bottom right portion of the frame. Just like that. I want to be on the inside of this brake line so that way I have something to tie onto. All right. That's good. We're going to run this up right along this brake line. Let's go ahead and go inside here. And see if we can fish this line out. There we go. Excellent. All right, so we got this line, and notice at this 90 degree, it does move. It does have a swivel on there. So I want to swivel this back toward the back side, just like that. I'll aim it down a little bit. There we go. All right, and we'll go ahead and cut it about right here. Make our connection. And we have completed our airlines. Okay, so for the last part of the air ride installation, we have to run our micro switch through our handlebar. And the easiest way to do this is actually to remove the handlebars. What we're gonna do is we have the handlebars off, everything's been unplugged, we have it laid out on a flat surface, and we're going to take a steel cable and we're gonna run it through the same wiring path that your left control switch is running through. So we're gonna start feeding this through, just like that. And what we're going to do is wait for it to stop, and it should be stopped right here. Now we're going to take a hook tool and I'm going to grab this cable, and this is a cable that we got right here. Okay, let's take this tape right here. I'm going to try to get this as tight as possible. We're going to start pulling this line through just like this, kind of helping it from the bottom. All right, well that's a good sign right there. And I already feel the plug right here, but this line has to be moved out, and look, so that is the best result we can possibly hope for. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this tape, get this plug revealed, and we can continue on getting these bars back on the bike. Now that we have the micro button switch wire ran all the way through the handlebar, I'm going to leave about 4 to 5 inches of slack up here on the top. That way I can mount it securely to our hand control a little bit later in the installation. Now it's time to install our micro button switches for our air ride. Now, if we mount this directly to this housing, it's not going to fit right. It's going to be cocked over to the right. So what we want to do, we want to extend it back, and this is how we're going to do it. We're going to remove the stock bolt, and you're going to use a provided bolt that you got. It's a little bit longer, and we're also going to be using a 1/4 inch spacer. So first off, we're going to take this 1/4 inch spacer, put it behind that micro button switch, slip our new bolt through, and we're just going to hand tighten this in, set it in place, tighten it up. Now this micro button switch is in the perfect position for the rider to command their air ride to go up or down. Okay, so earlier in the video I showed you how we ran this wire all the way down, and what we're going to do, we're going to run this wire down the backbone of the motorcycle. We're going to secure it, and we're going to come all the way back here, and there is a plug that's coming off of the dual relay. So let me go ahead and start working my way back, and I'll show you where we're going to plug this in. Okay, so here is our dual relay plug, and we're going to go ahead and connect this. I see it right there. There we go. So there's 3 prongs right there, 1 negative, 2 positives. Once it's plugged into place, we can go ahead and start screwing this in. This is going to make sure that this doesn't back out. Once this is done, we can go ahead and pull this in right here. Let's go ahead and secure this. I'm going to run a zip tie right here. Okay, so with this excess wire, we're just going to run it along some of the other wires to make a clean installation. So just to kind of go over it one more time, we've got our wire running all the way up right here. Any additional slack, I'd like to pull it up to the front. That way we have a little bit of extra slack up front. We shouldn't have any issues with turning. This wire goes right through the center of the top triple clamp. So turning right and left shouldn't be an issue. But I do want to make sure that whenever these handlebars turn all the way to the left, that they're not going to pinch this wire. So we'll do a double check a little bit later on in the install. Once all your wiring is complete, everything should look a little something like this. And now we can go ahead and put our splash guard on at this time. Okay, at this point, let's go ahead and install our splash guard. We're going to put this right here. And there's going to be 2 prongs that are sticking down. Let's go ahead and get those in place first. All right, those are locked in place. And there should be a hole right there where this is going to screw onto. I'm just going to hand tighten it up right now, and I'll just use this flat head because it's the closest thing in my reach. And I'm just going to go ahead and wipe the back of this splash guard down, make it look nice for final install. Okay, so you remember earlier in the video when we removed that rear shock in this bracket? Well, we're gonna have to put this bracket back on. So, okay, so we're gonna take a 1/2 inch open wrench and a 7/16 open wrench. We're gonna hold this smaller one in place, and we are going to loosen this bolt. We're gonna take this, this gas shock off of this bracket. From here, we can remove the shock and the gas shock, set it aside. We will not be using this for any more of this installation, but we will be putting this bracket back on the bike. Let's go. Okay, let's go ahead and unscrew these 2 bolts right here. We're going to set this bracket right on top. And let's just go ahead and hand tighten these bolts back in place. Now also don't forget this small bolt that we removed here earlier in the disassembly. Excellent. Okay, I'm going to take my T27. I'm going to go ahead and tighten this one up, snug it down. And I'm going to take my 7/16 ratcheting wrench, tighten this one up. Let's go ahead and tighten that one up. All right, that's all good to go. Hope you enjoyed the M8 Softail air ride installation video. And as always, if you're looking to customize your motorcycle, go to rushbikes.com today.